First of all, hello, I'm Mix Weirdo. I'm the person who draw all of their characters, or maybe I'm your friend. Honestly, I don't know, but I like to think we are because I already see a lot of the people watching my videos as friends. I hope you see me that way too. Uh, a little while ago, I just managed in my last short video, I asked you to send me questions about my OCs. I also say that I didn't answer up to any questions, no matter how silly it was, and I keep my promise. Anyway, without making intro any long, let's get started. I tried to answer every question as clearly and honestly as I could, so this video ends up being a little long. I hope you enjoy it and thank you so much for watching. I will start with Weirdo since they're one of my main characters and probably that one you will see the most on my channel. Weirdo has originally born male, but after an accident their bodies stopped processing both masculine and feminine hormones. Because of that, they don't really fit into either a male or female body type anymore. Charles is aware of this, so he sees Weirdo as genderless and uses they them pronouns for them. Charles is male and uses he/him pronouns. Specs is also male, even though he looks pretty feminine. He's a little gender fluid and expression, but mainly identify as a male and use he/him pronouns. As for their sexuality, Charles is pansexual. I think Specs is bisexual. Though honestly, you probably asked to him yourself. My characters feel like their own people to me, so I don't always decide everything for them. I'm still not completely sure about Weirdo's sexuality. They couldn't simply be heterosexual or something a little more complicated. I'm still figuring that out. And I don't think Weirdo would really care much about putting a label on it either. As for their relationship, Charles and Weirdo may seem a little harsh toward each other sometimes, but they really actually very close friends. Charles is naturally blonde and so he's often thought ruder than he really is. Specs and Weirdo uh, get along really well. There's even a ship name for them, Weird Glasses. Charles and Specs have a pretty normal friendship. And finally, not all my OCs live in the same universe, only Weirdo Charles and Specs share the same world. The rest of my characters each belong their own universe. That's actually a pretty fun question. I did say you could ask silly questions, and this is definitely one of them. Most of them actually follow traffic rules. Charles is probably one of expression. If there aren't any cars around, but the pedestrian light is still red, he probably just crossed away. So he not exactly the biggest rule follower. As of littering, none of them would do that. I trust them on this one. They wouldn't throw trash on the ground, right? You guys don't do that, right? They said no. These are actually some really good questions. Thank you for asking them. The thing on the right side of Charles' head is his tattoo. Yeah, he has a tattoo on the right side of his head. The reason Weirdo hid their neck is because they went through a traumatic experience involving it. They has several scars on their neck, and they still hasn't fully come to terms with them. So they prefer to keep their neck covered most of the times. Is Specs a girl or a boy? That's a great question. No, Specs isn't a girl, he's a boy. Why does Charles call Weirdo? Because from Charles' point of view, weirdos' behavior and the way they're staring at people are, well, weird. So instead of calling them by another nicknames, he simply called them Weirdo. Yes, they do. Weirdo is actually afraid of a lot of things, but they usually only show it when they are alone. Around other people, they try not to let it show. You could say they're a bit of scaredy cat, but not too much. They're usually pretty relaxed. The biggest fear of are needles and stairs. Yeah, they're generally afraid of stairs to the point where it's a really phobia. Charles is afraid of ordinary balloons, and you could also say he's afraid of deep water, especially places like the ocean. Speaks is afraid of his own mother. I won't explain why because that relating of his lore, so I didn't rather keep that a secret for now. As for ticks, yes, they all have them. Weirdo has ticks involving their neck and shoulders. If you suddenly touch either of around those those areas, they might let out a loud sound without meaning to. Charles has a tick as well. If you touch one side of his body, as unexpectedly, he may suddenly twist or turn toward the opposite side. Specs tick involve his legs. In fact, all three of them mainly may touch the great ticks. Specs ticks happen when someone touch his legs, so please don't do that. That's actually a really good question. If I had uh, compare them to the Gorillaz member, I did say Weirdo and Charles are a bit like Tudi and Murdoch. Charles is Charles is definitely the Murdoch of the group. He is stubborn, grumpy, and pretty hot-headed. Weirdo reminds me of Tudi in some ways. They can seem incorrect, and it's made it or even a little naive at first, but they actually someone you should take serious. There's a lot more going on beneath the surface than people usually realize. Specs is a little harder to compare. At first, Glass he gives off a quite calm white kind of like Russell, but personality was I think he's actually close to Noodles, so he's a bit of mix. I wouldn't say birds are everyone's favorite animals, but if we're only talk about birds, Weirdo's favorite birds would definitely be ravens. I think they see a little bit of themselves in them. They could honestly just sit somewhere quietly and watch ravens for hours. Charles absolutely loves crows. He likes how they can be separately cute but also fierce and intimidating whenever they need to be. Crows are definitely his favorite bird. Speck's favorite bird are budgies. He loves how friendly, playful, and affectionate they are. Their cheerful personalities makes him really happy. He even had pet budgies he was when he was younger. That's a pretty confusing confusing question. I think there might be a typo in it, but if you're asking how someone is born, well, I will give you the short version. First, you need a mom and a dad. You, mom, and dad fell in love, and then in eventually you happen. That's a simple way I can explain it. I'm sorry if that not what you meant, but because the question was writing incorrectly, I couldn't really understand what you were trying to say. Ask. I still didn't want to leave your question unanswering, so that's my answer. Well, first of all, yes, I will answer the question, but I'm so sorry you asked the wrong person. There are probably a lot of fandoms I'm forgetting. If you name almost any fandom, there's a good chance I will recognize it and be able to talk about. So I'm just going to read the list I wrote down. The fandoms I currently in our Pink Ballet, the Action, Magus Bright, Belly's Basic, Avatar, Kukuran Kingdom, Fiona and Cake, The Freak Circus, Paola Magica Madoka, pa- Paola Maggie Madoka Magica, 16 personalities, Cute Core, Weird Core, The Backroom, Face, Gorillaz, Hollow Knight, I'm Not a Human, The Furry Fandom, Dandy's World, Vocaloid, Roblox, Undertale, Underverse and Another Undertale House, Super Mario, Detective Void, CGP, Foundation, Boys World, Forsaken, Country Ball, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, Mouthwashing, SpongeBob, SquarePants, Venom, Doctor No Here, Creepy Pasta, My Little Pony, The Amazing Digital Circus, Sarpello, Sonic, Goodnight Pan Pan, Among Us, Project Sekai, Gacha Life, Ponytown, Team Forest 2, Edward, Matus Combat, Friday Night, Funky Pop Playtime, Lazy Games, Bad Pairing, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Iron Lung, Craft Fear, Detention, Kinetopet, Night in the Woods, Doki Doki, Omori, Need Streamer Overlord, and Rick and Morty, and I probably still forgetting a few.